than FGM, because when you look at it in terms of the medical social aspect of FGM, even though women have been mutilated or circumcised or so forth, they still are able to get education, participate in the economy, whereas child marriage is not so. So if I may have explanation that. My second question is, of course, to Mr. Burhan, who is quite famous this morning. I just wanted to ask, the Malaysian AIDS Council, I'm sure you read their press statement when they issued on the 5th of November, made some really, really good points in that with respect to the disclosure of the full text of the TPPA. And one of the things I think you yourself indicated just now is the issue of the price of healthcare, but specifically the price of drugs. I'm glad a discussion happened just now where an explanation was given where you don't get drugs or generics out of nowhere. It exists because somebody came up with research, came up with innovation, and then produced a patented drug, which later on could result in a generic, which is great. That needs to be very clear. You don't have generics for nothing. But Malaysia is trying to move towards 85% of its drugs to be generic. Does having the TPPA here now jeopardize that objective? Because even though TRIPS provisions still exist within the current text of the TPPA, and maybe Malaysia, people don't know this, but Malaysia actually created history back in 2004 by being the first country to actually make use of the compulsory licensing provision, which it signed with regards to TRIPS. So for HIV, yeah. So the question here is, especially since the Ministry of Health itself supported being in opposition against any increase in terms of the duration of patented drugs, does that not say something? If the Ministry of Health itself has expressed concern with regards to provisions, specifically in the TPPA, that could jeopardize the cost of healthcare, isn't that a legitimate concern for Malaysians too to be concerned about and to object to? Because you seem to indicate that the concerns are unfounded or perhaps misunderstood. So if we could have a little bit of explanation there, it would be great. Thank you, Mr. Marsh.
That's good. Please, sorry, Nola, if you can address the second part as well within Gibran. No, okay.
Okay, again, that's a very interesting question, because from the same perspective of human rights that we are following, that's property you are looking for is of your life, like the first things you own, your life, your body, the result of your work with your body, your ideas, your feelings. So those are the elements that are included in that perspective. So in genital mutilation, we are in some sense trying to grasp that idea of the ownership of your own body. What you said, it was also one of our concerns, because when we said previous year's analysis, we saw this kind of element included, and we wanted to include even more. But for example, nowadays we have an index that is made by it's called SIGI, and it's done by the same. And sometimes I had the idea, why don't we take the whole index? Because they have many other things included. And those age about marriage were included when, in some sense, were included when we had the freedom in marriage and divorce and things like that those are included. So there are many things that we want to include and exclude, and sometimes you need to decide. We want to compare with previous years. This is one important thing. Second, you want that the information will be available every year if you want to include it, because if you have information from one year but not the others, or for a few countries but not the others, you are losing robustness in your index. So this is a trade-off that you always face when you are doing an index, but it's a very important thing you pointed out.
Thank you for the question. On 85% 85% targets to have generics in the market. Will TPP actually jeopardize that? Well, there's exposure for example, patent extensions, right? Like I mentioned, there's exposure for delay. We are not discounting that at all. But what we are saying is that can be overcome through effective implementation. And when we look to the other two obligations with respect to pharmaceutical, which is better linkage and data collections, I've mentioned about the access window that we have, and that is being preserved as well. And the linkage, essentially, we are doing with the system that we have is through the intellectual property court, for example. So the basic principles of those three key elements it sits nicely with our current system. Therefore, we don't see that TPP would actually jeopardize that. The risk is very, very minimal, I would say, because obviously for the reasons that I've clearly explained on those three pharmaceuticals related provisions in the TPP IPRI. Yes, we are aware that the government has issued compulsory license in 2004 for the purpose of using to treat HIV. As I think our colleagues here from Philippines has explained, that is something that all 12 countries has reaffirmed. The flexibilities, compulsory license is a public policy tool. The 12 countries has reaffirmed that compulsory license will not be affected in any way. In any situations, you can issue compulsory license, and we agree with you. Because the government has introduced that, has experienced that, is more important for Malaysia to ensure that those public policy tools is intact. Yes, initially MOH and together with the our side, the Ministry of Domestic Trade, who oversees IP policies, do have concerns. Remember, we have come a long way in the negotiations. The initial draft was not anywhere near to the final draft that you have seen. There's no safeguard, there's no flexibilities, very limited flexibilities in the earlier drafting. But throughout the years, we have crafted a language that provides space for us to implement that. So, of course, it's natural for health agencies to react when they first see kind of system that is being promoted by a country that is home to all these big pharmaceutical research companies, because those are the rules that is designed domestically for them, right? But since then, the text has changed a lot. There's enough safeguard. I can guide you through the text. If you want to talk to me on the sidelines after this, we can open up the text in public, show you the safeguards that we have negotiated. 12 countries have agreed in order for everyone to actually comfortably accept those proposals. So yes, it's initially there were concerns at the negotiator level. I personally have concerns in the initial system that has been proposed, but remember there was quite some time away. We have the negotiations took place for 5 years. The text has evolved to what you see right now. The final language provides space for everyone to agree and to address concerns that were raised initially during the negotiation.
Sorry, can I just say that, excuse me one second,
Yeah.
the only reason why I mentioned it was because the Deputy Minister of Health statement on this was just last month, in October. So he would have seen the latest draft, not necessarily the final.
Oh,
But
you're making a big assumption there.
yeah, that's my assumption. So I'm just saying.
Our ministers.
Yeah, so I'm just asking
No.
whether, because going by what you said,
Ministry of
then
Health
it's
is
very
still
possible that they saw the earlier draft
They're
rather
still
than
in
the
draft.
latest
Still
draft. So if you could correct me on that.
Let me explain you the process, right? The minister, right? I'm not talking about the deputy minister. The minister is fully aware of the what has evolved throughout the negotiations. I'm not in position to say what kind of communications that the Minister of Health has with the deputy minister, but each and every round we will have health officials sit beside me, the front table. I do not put health officials behind just to be observer. They will sit beside me to be part of the negotiating team. And before and after every round where we discuss pharmaceutical, we will go. I have personally briefed the Minister of Health 6-7 times. So he's fully aware of the situations. But we are aware of the remark made by the Deputy Minister. It's something that's beyond control. I can't really control what he actually said. But it's suffice to say, it's suffice to say that the Minister of Health is fully aware of the situation.
Thank you.
There are times when even the ministers themselves cannot control what they say.
You're right.
Yeah.
Betul lah.
I think this pharmaceutical thing is attracting a lot of attention. I just want to ask Bukan to clarify. Patent extension will happen if we delay the registration by how long? How long will it be?
For IP office delay, it is more than 5 years. Okay, and for regulatory approval, particularly for medicines, because they have 2 layers of approval. It's not mentioned. It just says it's for any unreasonable curtailment. This is actually a very good question, Sasri, because throughout negotiations, I do have the same question as well, and that is why we created this negotiating history by asking countries that face the same principles, the same legal obligations that can be found between the same partners. That's why, hence we asked the Singapore and Australia about their experience, right? They have implemented those obligations for more than 10 years. It's, for example, Singapore. How they actually implement is that they put in their law, if a drug is registered more than 2 years, then a patent will be extended.
By 2 years also?
No. If it takes more than 2 years, that's the main condition. If it takes more than 2 years, then it's considered unreasonable curtailment, unreasonable delay. So how do they actually extend it? It will be, for example, 1 day delay will equate to 1 day extension. Okay, and we checked with our system, right? We found out that, for example, last year and this year, 100% of the registration is below 1 year. It's even like half of the benchmark of that has been set in Singapore's system, and they have never, for that reason.
So, in other words, you can say safely that if you approve everything within less than 2 years, nothing will happen. Is that right?
Correct.
So I think this is the message must go through to the public, because we have accepted a clause that they could extend, right? But and to the patent holders, of course, it is a normal request. You delay me for so long, you delay me until kingdom come, then what's the use of my patent? It will expire, but 20 years will pass. So I think that message must go through. And parallel to that message is that if you approve it with less than 2 years, there won't be a problem. And our history is we can approve within 1 year the whole of last year, most, all 100% of them approved in 1 year. So it is a barrier which we can pass very easily, so there will not be patent extension insofar as the Malaysian case is concerned. And I think this message must go through, because it is true, the first time 4 or 5 years ago, these sort of things, patent extension, worries the hell out of everybody, and it's very concerned. And just as the negotiations have moved forward, has improved, the negotiators, because you're not alone. All the other 12 countries are fearful of it. Even the Americans themselves, they have American lobby groups who don't like the big pharma. And they have also been lobbying their own negotiators. Like, we can't accept this extension of patents. So I think that message must go through. And once it's going through, we, the public, who's been very angry about this, must also realize that there's been a change in the document and begin to also have an open mind that things have changed and you have actually done the sort of things that we said. I remember long ago, we have been to have lottery prizes, right? Companies, we have lotteries. You win a draw a lottery, you get a prize to somewhere. Then someone said, no, you cannot give lottery because it's a game of chance. We must ask you a simple question. So the simple question is just an enabler for you to get the prize. Likewise, you want to win a prize, you must be able to hold a breath for 3 seconds. Now, everybody can hold their breath for 3 seconds, therefore get a prize. So likewise now, you are able to pass your regulatory approvals within 1 year. It's not an issue. It's a bar that we can pass, and I think we should put that behind us and move forward. And actually, you all have done a good job in trying to preserve this. That's my comment.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, but the message that must be conveyed to the public. Otherwise, Cik Syahri tak habis soalan.
Thank you, Tan Sri. You put it very nicely. Better than me.
Just one
Yeah, 1 second.
clarification. No, just one clarification based on Tan Sri's question. Apparently, this patent extension for 5 years holds. But if there are new indications that come out with it, there will be extensions, further extension.
No.
No?
No.
You're sure? Huh? Okay.
Okay.
No.
Can we have the lady at the back and then Azrani? Well, lady at the middle and Azrani at the back.
Good afternoon. My name is Nabila. I'll keep this short. My question is directed to Encik Burhan. We've had extensive discussion about patent protection, but my question relates to copyright. As I understand it, Malaysia's current copyright protection term is 50 years after the life of the author, and the TPP extends this term to life of the author plus 70 years. My question is, why was this necessary? Maybe you can shed some light on this, and should we be concerned that our public domain would be less rich than it is with this current, with the extension of the 20 years, keeping works out of the public domain? Thank you.
Okay, and then Azrani?
Hi, my name is Alfrani. I was drawn to this article that was in the pack. Thanks, Saifu, for this one, by Sinclair Davidson, that talked about the case for property, for intellectual property rights. And one of the things that he touched on was plain packaging for cigarettes. And there was a very interesting statement where he said plain packaging is an attack on trademarks. So, from what we understand, in a country that imposes this kind of very draconian regulations, the tobacco companies or interested parties will not be allowed to get to seek redress through the investor-state dispute settlement mechanism. In a way, taking away the rights, there it goes. Yeah. So, but it's very specific to tobacco. My question is, and this goes into the technicality, and sorry to bring back the vaping issue. If one Saiful, and sorry to use you as an example, has a company that's selling this product internationally,
I don't.
and he may. And later on, any part of the government within the TPP treaty actually goes into a very strong ban against this particular product. Does one Saiful have recourse through the ISDS? That's my question.
So if I sell vape,
or you produce, because let's assume you have plain packaging for vape, and effectively your trademark or your IP is taken away. If you're in any other industry, you probably get allowed redress through the ISDS. Now that's been taken away for tobacco. What happens to the vaping industry?
yeah, okay. That's a good point, and good luck to you answering that. But, okay, we have two there. Copyright is one, and about ISDS and V. I feel so sorry for you, Johan, but thank you for doing this.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Copyright first, right? Because copyright is IP. The ISDS is not really IP issues, but let me just try to give it a shot. To be frank, right, on copyright term, we for Without PP, we are actually doing a review of that. Why? It is because we are looking at how our copyright is being traded within the region. We look at, the way our copyright industry is actually being traded because of the similarities in culture. Right? It's predominantly would be in Brunei, Singapore, and Indonesia. I know Indonesia is not part of TPP, but I'm sure since I think you have strong interest in copyright, maybe you are a copyright expert, I'm sure you know or aware that Indonesia has extended its copyright term to 70 years, right? We for Without PP, they are not member of TPP, not because of any FTAs. And I'm sure as a copyright stakeholders, you are aware that there's these principles where it's called principles of reciprocity, or in the copyright world where it is specifically referred to as the rule of shorter term. What the rule of shorter term says is that if a country, WTO members provide a longer term than what WTO provides, for example in Indonesia's case, they would have the ability to actually discriminate against foreigners. In this case it's Malaysian. Singapore as well, because of the copyright term, which is 70 years, they would have the ability to do that. So when we review that and we see that the way it's been traded in the region, particularly Indonesia, a very huge market for our copyright exporters, and in Singapore as well, we see that there's actually a need to review that copyright term. And also, we found out, right, this is not study done by government, right, because normally study done by government, people will say, hey, this is biased, everything. Study by United Nations, specifically on copyright industries in Malaysia, they found out that the copyright-based industry is actually the specific industries that actually cushion the impact during the recession in 2006, 2007, right? And it has also been identified as one of the crucial sectors and the second largest growing sector throughout that period as well. And the way it's been traded, growth, can share you with the statistic after this online. I don't have the statistics online, but it's offhand right now, but it's online. The study is available at the WIPO website, Specialized Agencies of IP under UN. You can see there's a specific studies on copyright-based industries in Malaysia. And throughout the investigations, we thought that rather than doing the review of copyright term unilaterally from trade negotiation point of view, I think it's wise to put it on the table as part of the negotiating strategy, right? Rather than you do it unilaterally or voluntarily. So it does have bearing, it does put some sort of PP act as some sort of a catalyst or a push factor to extend that, but the reality is that it's something that we have reviewed internally. So we find that it's useful to you to do that in conjunction with TPP because it simply makes sense rather than doing it voluntarily for no reasons. That's for copyright. For Yeah, for vape, it's a very famous topic, and ISDS. Yes, it is being excluded under ISDS. That's the fact. Right? It's not for trademark. Remember, it's not. I know the past cases is about trademark and how plain packaging can actually reduce the sign of trademark. Which trademark is considered as one of IP, and then it somehow can be argued that that is somehow taking away expropriate investment, right? But that's the investment. That's being discussed in investment sector. Okay, I don't have the competency to talk about investment sector because I'm not the lead negotiator. But I am aware that the health measures the exclusion for tobacco for ISDS was introduced by the government so that the government can actually fulfill its obligations under the Framework Convention of Tobacco Control FCTC. That's what I've been informed.
Does that mean when we refer to tobacco in TPP, it includes tobacco delivery system as well? Or is it just tobacco products? So that's the difference, right? So cigarette or vape, vape does not have tobacco, the tobacco itself, it just has nicotine.
Well, again, right, because we're going through specifics here, I just want to make sure that because we don't want to create a misinformation here, right? And because my capacity is not on investment rules. Remember, ISDS is under investment rather than intellectual property. Many people have this misinformation that ISDS on trademarks on IP is actually under IP chapter. No, it's under investment chapter. It's the investment rules. So it's good to have the investment lead negotiators to talk about this. But that is, as far as I'm aware, it's because to fulfill the obligations under FCTC. The government has made a commitment. Yes, obviously for different kind of products, there will be avenues if someone is taking away the IP for SDS, but not in relation for tobacco products. If it's put some tobacco content in the vape, then it goes to the integrity of it, right?
Yeah,
That's
okay.
good to detail, which I'm not in the position to talk about.
Sorry, my mistake is not tobacco delivery system, it's nicotine delivery system. But anyway, I want to end now. We are 45 minutes behind time. So I want to say thank you very much. This is a very hotly debated topic. Over here we talk about medicine. One of the things that I'm personally interested in is what's happening in Singapore now. Because in Singapore, what's happening is they have declared that they want to be a global IP hub for the world, so an IP hub for the world. But at the same time, earlier this year, Tadi Azrul mentioned about how our Ministry of Health here is doing certain things around medicine. But over there, the Ministry of Health declared that they want to do a plain public consultation on plain packaging for cigarettes. So this is an infringement of trademark rights. And the thing that interests me is Singapore on the one hand wants to use IP and become a global hub for IP. But at the same time, there is an agency within government saying that we should ignore one element of IP rights. So I'm observing this in a very keen manner. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we're going to Singapore on Thursday and Friday to meet with officials there, to see the dynamic between those campaigning for public health and those campaigning for trade. It's really an interesting observation to me. But I want to say thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much to Property Rights Alliance, to Kementerian as well for attending, and hopefully we'll have more conversations on this.